There she is, and hello redesigners. Welcome to Thursday, noonish EST. We're on the Redesign of Prima Facebook page, and we are going to do some stamping. Stamp it up, okay? If you're hopping on, say hello. Hello. I'm in Indianapolis, and it should be a nice day outside. If you're familiar with Midwest weather, you know it could be snowing one day and a heat wave the next. So I don't know, it's early, we'll see. But anyways, I'm Cece from Cece Restyled. I am a furniture artist, and I am also a brand ambassador for Redesign with Prima, which just means that I get to come on here and show you all kinds of fun things you can do with Redesign with Prima products, okay? So I guess give you some inspiration or show you what not to do, or ideally what to do, but sometimes what not to do, right? So anyways, we'll go ahead and jump right on in. Today we're going to be stamping with clearly aligned decor stamps. If you have not seen them or not familiar with them, they are, you know, stamps, stampy stamps like ink stamps, but oversized ink stamps, right? So these actually are a couple opened packages, but you can see on the back the designs. I love anything scrolly in French I love. So I picked, I actually had about 5 different sets of stamps out, and I was like, oh gosh, what do I get to put together? Like a little puzzle. So it took me a little while, but I got to a design that I liked, and you may or may not have seen this piece. I posted it already. However, today we're going to do the other side exactly like this one. So I wanted to save it so I could show you on a video, because they're so fun, and you know, like some people are not sold on the stamps, or they're maybe haven't used them before, or they're like, why would I want to use stamps? I could use a stencil. They are different. Yes, you can use them in the same instances, same kind of purposes, but they're different, and they give different looks. And I like stenciling, but I love stamping. It's fun. It's and you know, on a curvy surface like this, see how it's, I don't know if you can tell, but it's not a flat surface, so it's a little bit more difficult whether you're stamping or stenciling. So, you know, the curves pose a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a, what do you say? It's a learning experience for us, okay, right? If you have not learned how to deal with that, we're going to do it today. Because stamping on a flat surface is, you know, stamping on a flat surface. But anyway, so I picked Chateau de Maisons, a couple out of there, and I'll show you which one's in a sec. And then this one is Chateau de Salverne. So we got lots of chateaus going on. I love, like I said, I love scrolly things. I love French things. And this one is no different. Some of these, like, look at that, it has a crown. This is the one we end up using. It actually says, mind is stronger than matter. Okay, so that's not French, but whatever. This, it says CP. I like this one, but I was like, who's CP? I feel like a monogram wasn't what I was going for in this one, but I was like, what can I make it say? What can I make up for it? Like CP. CP. I didn't have anything clever for that. Because you know someone's going to ask, who's CP? Every time. So anyways, scrollies. And these, I love these. They remind me of crabs. I don't know why. They're not crabs, but like I call them the little crabbies. And then the little cherubs, you see the little cherubs on there? There's all these little hidden fun things to see. And anyway, so yeah. So we're going to jump right in. I ended up choosing, like I showed you, the mind is stronger than matter. And the crabs, I showed you the crabby guys. They're not really crabs, I just call them that. And then I chose these swirlies, okay? So what I did was I just kind of took my piece before I, obviously it's not like a transfer where you have to place it down. I just kind of held them up, you know, and tried to fit them together like a puzzle. Took a few tries, but that's the fun part, right? It's the fun part when you have that aha moment, like, you know, you're like, oh, none of this works. And then you have that aha moment and you're like, oh, this is it. I love this. That's the fun part, you know, for me anyways. So this is where we're going with this. Now, you can get a couple different kinds of inks from Redesign or from Prima. So one is the Redesign ink stamp, okay? It's not actually permanent ink. I suppose if you spray seal it, it can be permanent, but it's not, from what I understand, it's not advertised as permanent, which I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's different instances why that would be you know, use relevant, but the art philosophy inks from Prima Marketing are supposed to be permanent. However, depending on how, you know, thick or how much ink you've got on your impression there, you do need to let it dry. I say overnight at least, and if you need to blast it with a hair dryer or heat gun quickly to help that ink start drying up quicker, you can do that. But you definitely want to let it dry plenty. I didn't have any problem brush sealing my when I used the ink on another project, but I let it dry for at least overnight. It was a couple days, I think, just because of my schedule. But and I used the copper, and it sealed fine. It didn't smudge or anything like that. You can also do it, you know, spray seal it, or use, you know, do it your last. Excuse me, do it last. You know, like a wax. It's kind of up to you and the end use of your piece, really. If it's obviously on a tabletop, you don't want to not seal it. So, case by case scenarios, right? So here we are on the other side of this piece. Okay, blank slate here, basically. I may do the back too. I probably will, because this is the kind of oversized piece that it may not go up against a wall. So I finished out the back, and I'm probably going to stamp it too. But we'll see. Probably not for this video, but just because too much repetition, you know. So anyways, there's the two inks. What else is there? I mean, you can use really any kind of ink stamping pad. My preference is to roll paint onto the stamps. And the reason why is because I know my paints, or what paint I'm using, and I know that it's not going to smudge when it's dry. All the color options are basically endless. You don't have to worry about, you know, oh, is the ink coming that color? So I like to use paint. Plus, I really like to use a roller too. I love rolling it on. It's much more fun than pressing it onto the ink pad, because they're kind of little and you have to go all over the whole stamp. So I could just roll it on real quick with this. And let's see. Okay, so we picked out our pieces, our stamps. Now, these clearly aligned stamps, they are bendy. Okay, so they're rigid enough that we can stamp our impression, you know, without anything, you know, behind it. We can just use our fingers like that, or a brayer or whatever. You can also get one of these fancy acrylic blocks. This one has a handle on it from Prima. They've got, grids on the back, so you can make sure you're getting it straight. These are pretty awesome. However, that's not going to really work on our flat surface. I mean, it may on this big curve right here, but I can't get down in that little groove right there with the rigid stamping block. I got a littler one, also can't get down in there. You know, that ain't going to work. So I had this idea, because on the other side, I just did it like this. And I was literally like, if I had a camera in the room, you would have laughed at me, because I was literally like this. I was like, oh God, no, like having a heart attack, making sure my stamp got good and, on there. You want to make sure every part of your stamp hits, because you don't want to have to stamp twice. If you're very careful, you can try. I try, but you don't want to have to do that, because almost never it turns out good. It's almost always messed up if you try to stamp twice. So, and for that reason, we can just use them like this, because they're rigid enough. But I had an idea, and I thought it might work, and I'm not sure. Maybe somebody's already figured this out or done this. Probably. I'm probably way out of the loop. But I was thinking, so they come in between these acetate, these thick kind of plastic sheets here, and they are flexible. Okay, I think they're meant to protect the stamps, but they, if you saw, when I'm done with my stamps, I wash them, and they don't usually make it back in here. They make it in a pile on my brush where I dry my brushes out. So that's where they live. So I'm thinking, if I can make this fit the back, make this fit my stamp, cut it out. That might help me to get it on there and get a better impression. I'm thinking. Do you think that sounds like it makes sense or no? I feel like it is genius, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Anyway, so we're going to try it and see. So all I need for that is scissors. And then you can just wash it off with your stamp, or heck, you can even leave it on there. They stick, see? They stick. So they're not so sticky that they won't peel off. They'll peel off, but, cool. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try it, and we're going to sink or swim, right? With that, worst case scenario, we have to paint over it if we mess it up, and we start all over. No big deal. Well, not all over, but on here. So don't be scared of the paint, okay? It's just a paint. So I'm going to be using a metallic copper. This is Couture copper from Paint Couture. That's what I'm going to use because I like me some metallic and I like me some copper. My Art Alchemy pots of paint are just, they're small. I would stamp with those, but I really like them, and I'm, what's the word, stingy. I don't want to use up all my pots of paint on one stamp, so I'm using the big guy here, okay? Maybe one day the Art Alchemy paints will come in bigger jars. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Somebody maybe mentioned that to somebody over there at Prima, maybe, I don't know, maybe, oh, maybe I will. Maybe it'll be me. Bigger Art Alchemy jars. Okay, so we're gonna start with our little crabs that are not crabs. I just call them that, because don't they look like crabs with little pinchers? But they're not. It's just a little pretty design. Hey everyone, I don't see any questions. All I see is the same notification 100 times that Marshall is watching. I don't know why I always get that. I might have to unfriend Marshall so I don't get those every time. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Love ya. Kisses. Okay, well, guess I'll go back through and see if there's any questions later because Marshall's taking over the whole feed here. Anyway, so we're going to start in the middle, okay? Usually, when I'm doing something that needs repeated across a surface, I start in the middle, okay? Because you could start on this end if you want, and you can get all the way down there, but I kind of like to look at it and see it centered, as you know, visually centered. Plus my little medallion emblem thingy here, which hopefully I don't get upside down, but pay attention to that. He's gonna fit right in there. See that little like groove there? It fits perfectly, right? Like it was meant to be. See that? Boom. Love it. Love it when a plan falls together. So I'm not gonna sit there and measure it out to make sure I get center. I mean, you can do that for sure, but I'm gonna eyeball it and I'm gonna throw that sucker right there. So let's see, let's get our stamps all ready. Here, let's go ahead and there, now you can see. So let's see, stampy side up. And when I clean my stamps, you want to try to clean them right away after you're done using them. Otherwise, it's really hard to get all that paint out of the grooves. But no fear. I use a scrubby soap or they have these little wire. They have these little wire brushes. I'm not saying use a wire brush, but they have these little wire brushes that look like oversized toothbrushes at the hardware store, but they make the same thing in plastic bristle or nylon bristle. And that's perfect for those. Or you could just use a toothbrush or whatever. Toothbrush and a little bit of a soap or cleaner of some sort. Oh, and I've got the stamp cleaner that I found. I had it in the hoard somewhere, and I remembered I had it, or I came across it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this stamp cleaner. It's thebomb.com. At first I was like, okay, way to put a fancy name on some soap in a spray bottle, but literally it's kind of like a little bit greasy. Just a little bit greasy almost, so I'm not really sure, but whatever it is, it cuts through the ink or paint or whatever, and it makes your stamp clean. It's the bomb. First we're gonna take our first stamp, okay, and we're gonna just put it on this little rigid guy here. Since we're lining it up at the bottom of our piece, I'm gonna go ahead and line it up at the bottom of this, and I'm gonna leave my space on the other 3 sides for my fingers. We'll see how that works out, and again, this is, I've never done this on this before. I just had the idea actually kind of recently, and I was like, I'm gonna have to try that. Because, I mean, in theory, I feel like it would make it easier, right? Maybe not. It's not wanting to stick super good, but I think the back of my stamp has too much schmegma on it. Okay. All right, so we're gonna pop that bad boy right back on there. And even if it doesn't stick, it's okay. The whole point in having that behind it is so that it's rigid, and it helps to like get all of those surface contact points touching the piece, the surface. Does that make sense? So first I'm gonna go ahead and stir up my paint, okay? Any metallic you wanna stir. I mean, any paint you probably should stir, but especially metallics, because they are, you know, they're all sparkly, and those sparkles settle if you don't stir them up or use them often enough. So we're gonna do that real quick. And then I've got this little roller. This is actually a roller brush from ReDesign with Prima. It has seen better days, but it comes with 4 reusable, washable and reusable roller heads, and then this long handle, and it's 4 inches. So that's a perfect size for most little furnitures or home decor projects. It's a good size, and also it comes with a little acrylic plate, I guess. It's a little plate for you to pour out your ink or paint on, and you roll it like that. But it doesn't have, it's literally a flat plate. I'm too messy for all that, and I use more paint than that. So I just get these roller trays on Amazon. They're 4-inch, so they fit the roller brush from Prima perfectly. And then you can just throw away the little jobby. Yeah, I usually reuse them a couple times, but I guess I like to reduce, reuse, and recycle, huh? So I'm gonna go ahead and just pour out a little bit more of my stirred up metallic paint. And you can use, this is Paint Couture, it's an acrylic base paint, but you can use chalk paints, chalky style paints, acrylic paints. What other kind of paints would you want to use? I mean, you wouldn't want to use oil base because you wouldn't want to wait 3 days for a stamp to dry. That would be silly. But I mean, if you wanted to, go for it. It'll work. It just doesn't make much sense. You know what I'm saying? Unless you've got all the time in the world, in which case I am very jealous. Jelly. So when I am loading up my roller for stamps or really anything, I like to kind of, get it a little saturated, and then I like to offload quite a bit or soak it up there. So press pretty firmly and get it soaked up in there, because you don't want it dripping off. You don't want it drippy. That's where you're going to get too much ink or stamp, and you're going to get a gloopy, non-crisp impression. And with stamps, you're not really going for a perfectly crisp impression necessarily, or at least if you are, then you're in for a real ride. But I like them because they impart a sort of aged look. Stamps have their own kind of look. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it. It's just the stampy look is its own thing, and I dig that look. I do. I like it. So let's see. We're going to go ahead and grab our little crabbies that are not crabs, and we're going to roll the back. I like to have a little cloth handy. Now, this isn't necessary, but you'll see here in a second. When I roll on the back, my paint on, well, maybe not. When I roll the paint on the back, and I'm not like super light coat, but I'm not too liberal. But when I roll it on the back, do you see how it gets in these little flat spots? Those are the spots I usually use for my fingers, right? See the little flat spots? Well, that's not part of the stamp, so I like to kind of wipe that off if I can, and quickly, because your paint will dry fairly quickly, so you don't want to dilly-dally. But I also kind of want to make it easier on myself to not screw up, so I like to kind of wipe off that excess paint in the spots that are not part of the stampy stamp. And then, of course, now I got to wipe this off because I shouldn't have stamped on that or rolled it on that. I should have put it on afterwards, but we're good. So now I'm going to put this back on here. Okay, normally it'll be more sticky if they're newer, but my stamp, I've used this one several times, so the back is losing its stickiness a little bit. I can add some adhesive to it, let it dry to attack, and then we'll be all good, but I did not have time for that before this, and honestly I didn't think of it either. So let's go ahead and move over to our piece. And boom. There we go. Can see. And I'm going to go ahead and just put my finger in that little spot that doesn't have, here's another little spot that I can stick my finger in. It's not part of the impression. So I'm going to kind of center it up as best I can, eyeballing it. Feel free to measure it and get it perfectly centered. I ain't going to do that though. So I'm starting from the bottom because we're on a rolled top, it's curvy. So I like to start on the bottom or the top if we're coming down with our stamps. Start on the bottom and then kind of just make sure that whole part, all of it that's touching, you want to give it a light or light/firm, light plus firm minus push, right? And then I start to work my way up. Okay, and then I go across. Kind of like a typewriter, okay? You go a row at a time. That's how I like to do it, because if I try to press the whole thing on there at once, I don't have that many fingers, so it's going to start coming up in areas. When it starts to come up, and you have to press it back down because you're not sure which areas it got to, you know, that's when you get that smudgy, non-appealing, I messed up look, okay? And I'm not saying it's going to be a perfect impression. There's a tiny bit of smudge factor that can be expected, which, like I said, is I like, personally. That's why I like stamps, but there's definitely a difference between, hey, I screwed up, and hey, this is a stamp. So anyways, we're like a typewriter. We're going to go back and forth, row by row, working our way up, making sure all of our little doodads are pressing down and making their impression with the paint. Okay, so now I think I got it all. So I'm going to just grab it, and I'm going to try as hard as I can not to let it shift. I'm just going to pull it back like that. I like to pull back and out if I can, instead of from side to side or whatever. It really helps to keep it as crisp as possible. So I did see how I missed this little, like, what are those called again? Not ivy, but laurel, the little part of the laurels up top. I don't suggest doing this, but I'm going to do it because I'm a little perfectionist when it comes to these types of deets. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get those little tops on there. You got to really be confident or crazy, one or the other, to try to stamp twice. So I'm not suggesting you do this, but I'm going to do it. Try to get my little laurel tops up there, my little laurel tips. Boom. And pull it back. Okay, so that's all right. I can live with that. So we're going to go ahead and do this side and this side. You know, I like to start in the center and move side to side. I do like to clean off my stamp somewhat in between impressions. It just helps to keep that ink from building up, and then you get less and less crisp impressions. I'm actually trying to use a little bit of my stamp cleaner. I'm not going to use a whole lot because, like I said, it's a little greasy and I don't want it to kind of mess with my impression. But I do need to get the back of this a little bit cleaner. Since it's not totally dry yet, I probably could squirt it with a little water too. But it's acrylic paint, so water does not, you know, reactivate it once it's dry, like some chalk paints or chalky style paints. Sorry. Also with the acrylic, if it's on there real thick, you can let it dry and peel it off too. That's kind of cool, but we don't want to do that. We just want to kind of clean it as we go. All right, so there's that. That's about, wait, I'm gonna get in these little grooves here. It really starts to build up in the little grooves, so if you can maintain that and not let it get too crazy down there, you'll be better off. Crisper, fresher, sharper, better, faster, stronger. Okay, boom. So that's enough for, you know, in between impressions, right? Boom. All right, so we're gonna do it one more time on the left. So let's see. Get our ink kind of freshed up there, and then roller, 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 just like that. You don't have to press hard. You can go lightly. I go lightly so I don't get too much excess paint on there, and I just do it a couple times to make sure I got all my areas covered. Okay, boom. Then I just kind of take this and I get the extra ink out of these little spaces that are not part of the design, right? Okay, and then here we go again. One more time on the left, one more time on the right. Then we can do the rest of it, but we'll do this one more time, and then I'll show you the little medallion in the center and maybe one of the scrolly jobs, and so you can get the idea. All right, here's we go. Ready? Isn't that copper so pretty on the navy blue? Like, oh, copper is my jam. I love copper. It doesn't go with every color, in my opinion, but dark purple, dark blue, black. Oh, copper all day. Okay, copper all day. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and line this up. So most, if not all of your stamp designs like this that kind of are borders or look like borders, they will line up, or they should. So I'm just going to overlap like an 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to overlap just a little bit so I don't have a gap in between it. And try to line it right up with that. And here we go. So remember, I start at the bottom. Okay, work my way across. You could use a brayer, but I'm not sure that on this curved surface a brayer is going to be too easy to do. Might be a little more awkward than you would think. So I'm just using my fingers and going carefully. every single day I think to myself, I could use a third hand, or 2, or 4. I always need more hands. Okay, so we're gonna go up, start to move up, making sure we go all the way across. Okay, and you want to try not to let up to where it comes up from your surface until you're done. So you want to try to keep your fingers on there, enough pressure to where your stamp stays on the surface and does not come up until you're ready to be done and pull it up. That's the goal, right? It doesn't always happen perfectly that way, but that's what you want to go for. Okay, so we're just going to kind of spider our fingers all the way up here. Boom, boom, boom. Spider it up, spider it up. Get our laurel wreaths good on there this time. Pinkies, pinkies, go. Look, pinky action there. We're working out all our fingers today. It's a workout. You don't have to go to the gym. You're welcome. All right, now we think we got it good. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab it under here and up here and pull it out. Boom. And for some reason we keep missing those same little crab pinchers, which are not really crab pinchers. I'm just calling them that. But you know what? It's okay. We're gonna go ahead and just we're just gonna go ahead and re-stamp that little area right there. Don't tell anybody, don't do this, but we're just gonna go boom, okay? Boom. Boom. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray that with my cleaner, and then we're gonna go ahead and do our little middle medallion shield. I'm not sure what exactly you want to call it. We'll stick with medallion, huh? Let me wipe off my border here, my crabby border. I love stamps, you guys. I could play with stamps all day long. All day long. All right, let's see if I can get you down there. All right, so let's clean out this little guy. A boom. There's so many good stamp designs out there. Like, I don't have all of the ones I wish I had, which is crazy because I usually have more than a person could ever need of any kind of product, but I'm a little bit of a hoarder, they say. You know, like, I don't know what's behind that, but I'm a little bit of a hoarder. I absolutely hate not having what I need on hand when I'm working on a project. So if I have to stop and run to the store or order something and wait for it to come, like, that's like, I can't stand that. And I think the reason is because by the time it comes, or by the time I get home from the store, I'm over it and I don't want to work on it anymore. So yeah, so I try to have what I need on hand all the time. Some say hoarder. I just say, you know, I just say a planner, a header. I'm a planner, a header. I'm prepared, right? Hoarder, prepared. You say tomato, I say tomato. All right, so we're just gonna wipe that off. Okay, so then I'll wash that with soap after I've sprayed on my jazz and let it soak. But next we're gonna move on to this one. Mind is stronger than matter. Okay, good message there. Looks like the initials say TS or JS or whatever, I don't know. We're gonna just pretend like we know who that is. ST maybe? I don't know, who's ST? So we're gonna grab our little sheet here and we're gonna cut another little, actually, you know what, for this one we might not need to. It's just one little chunk. So I don't think we're gonna need to use that back one. That's for the bigger, more awkward to stamp on one. So we'll pass on that for this little guy. Anything bigger than this or longer than this, I would say let's use the acetate sheet. Seemed to work out pretty good, huh? It didn't fail anyways. Knock on wood. It's not done yet, so there's chances. So I'm just going over the back. This is I don't know why rolling this paint onto these stamps is so satisfying to me. It's just like oddly satisfying for some reason. Anyways, I know, I'm a weirdo. So we're gonna go ahead and grab it. Try not to touch our inked parts. And let's see. Let's go ahead and point up here. And we're gonna place that smack dab right in the middle, and we're gonna wedge his little point down at the bottom right into that little gap right there, okay? So let me see, how am I gonna grab this? I still want to start from the bottom and work my way up. A, because I want to line up this point, and B, it's still on the curve, so we need to be mindful of that. So I'm going to kind of center it a little bit right here, best I can. And then when I know where I want to start, I'm going to push it down. Okay. Then I'm just going to spider my fingers all the way up, just like we did on the bottom, except it's not as long, so it should be a little bit more, a little easier, a little less stressful. This little guy here. I love these. We need a whole medallion set of stamps. That would be awesome. Coats of arms. Well, I guess there's coats of arms. Whole medallions. Little circly guys. I love it. Right, so that one was fairly painless, right? So I want to go ahead and pull it up and out if I can, instead of to the side, and boom. Look how pretty that impression is. For a stamp, that's very detailed, right? Usually I would think a stamp cannot get that intricate, but these are some Badar stamps, you know, like check that out. I mean, that's really pretty, right? Like, it's pretty intricate for a stamp, not gonna lie. And the copper, oh, the copper is great. Copper's great, metallic's great, period. But okay, so there's one more element that we're gonna do. Obviously, I'll finish out the rest, but I'm gonna show you one more element, which is the little scrollies, my favorites. My favorites are the scrollies, and then I'll hop off, and then I'll finish the rest later, but we're gonna do the scrollies on either side. So the fun thing about stamps is that, well, one of the fun things is that, like I said, you can puzzle, you know, treat them like a puzzle. You don't have to use one set of stamps. You can use it however many sets you want, and just pick and choose what you want from each set and customize and fit pieces together and make it fit your piece, right? You know, I had this amount of space to work with, so like, what can I fit in that space that is pretty and pleasing to the eye, and you know, all of that. So it's like a fun puzzle. A fun puzzle. Not that there's a whole lot of not fun puzzles, but all right, so these are the scrolly jobs. And we're gonna put these, all right, so let's do this side. So this one ended up working out. I mean, it couldn't have worked out more perfectly. So the way I have it is, you see these little like tips here? So there's 1, 2, 3 of these little tips sticking down. The way I had it on the other side is that they happen to perfectly fit down in some of these spots here. I'm trying to, I might have to revisit the other side, but somehow it fit to where it was like perfectly snug up in there. I wonder if it was like that. Let me look at the other side real quick. Let me look at the other side. Okay, yeah. I was a little off my rotation. So they're more like, it's more like these 3 little nubs, not those 3. So screw that first one. This one, and this one. This is the one that I was lining up. So it's more like a wave that comes up. So this guy, see how that works out? Look at this. Check it out. It couldn't have been more perfect. Can you see how that fits right down snug into that little opening, that into that little opening, and that right there into this little opening? Like, it's just, I love that. That's a fun part for me, when it fits together and it's not even from the same set of stamps. It's like, that's awesome. It was meant to be in that case, you know? Like, in that case, it was meant to be, right? All right, last one I'm gonna show you, and I think you get the gist of it. So let's go ahead and roll our back. Actually, first we gotta cut, I am gonna use the acetate sheet on this, because look at how flimsy, I mean, not flimsy, but like, you know, it's long. It's not like one chunk like the medallion was. It's not one easy chunk. It's a little more, oh, what's the word? A little more free. It's a little freer. So let's go ahead and put that there. I'm gonna go ahead and cut out just a shape just a little bit bigger than a stamp, okay? You don't need to have it the exact same size or way too big, or any specific size, period. Just enough to where you have room for your fingers and the stamp to comfortably live together. Okay, so let's go ahead and roll our ink, or I'm sorry, our paint onto the block. Boom, boom, boom. This is my favorite part. It's so satisfying here. Boom, there we go. Perfect. Clean up in this little spot here, there. Okay, and then we're gonna slap it on the back of our acetate here. And if you want it to stick like really well, you can just spray some adhesive on the back of this and slap it on your sheet if you really are not wanting it to move, but it's fairly grabby enough. It's grabby enough for me to not need the adhesive, but you know, to each her own, right? Or his own, whatever. Well, no, not to each, no. They can't have their own. We can have our own. To each her own. To each him. He can do what she does, right? Does that make sense? I don't make sense sometimes. In my head it makes sense. All right, last one. I'm gonna hop off here. When I stop making sense is when I know I need to end the video. All right, so this is gonna be a little trickier. Okay, I'm gonna grab it from this little edge where my finger is not touching the ink part. Yeah, scoot it up a little bit. So there we go. So now I want to line up my 3 little areas there, my little nubs, and start on the bottom again. So those 2 little bottom guys that stick out, I'm just going to lay those down so they hit, and then I'm going to put my hand there. Whew. This was a stressful one, boys. This is a stressful one. Because you want to try not to let the top of your stamp hit any of the curves before you have it rolled into place. So, okay, so we're going to do the typewriter thing. Go all across this row on the bottom and move our way up to the next row. And by row, I'm meaning not a real row. It's an imaginary row. You know how a typewriter works? Yeah. If you don't know what a typewriter is, you're probably not old enough to be painting furniture. I'm just kidding. Everyone's old enough to be painting furniture. My kids love to paint, but they don't know what a typewriter is, I bet. Okay, so now we work our way all the way up to this little tippy-toppy. Boom. Okay, so this part is stressful too, but I think we got it. We can handle it. Nothing we can't fix. Don't be too stressed out. Okay, and we're gonna try to pull it up and out. Boom. Ooh, okay. So we got our impression. It could be a little darker. That's probably because I needed to use a little bit more paint on my roller, to be honest. It was kind of drying up on my roller. And that's probably why I didn't get as crisp, you know, or not crisp, but as solid as of an impression as I did down here. So I can try to redo that one in some spots that are more, distressed, I guess we'll say. Accidentally distressed, but it's not smudgy and smeary, so that's good. I'm not sad about it. We'll just hit the spots that are a little, not there. A little less bold, right? And then we're gonna do the other side just the same way. But I'm not gonna bore you any longer. I'll do that later. But so our little experiment with the clear plastic sheet that comes with the stamp, I would say it's a success. I would say I would definitely recommend doing that if you're working with one of the designs or stamps that's a little more floppy or intricate or, you know, harder to handle. So yeah, that's fun. So anyways, hope you get your stamp on. If you have not gotten your stamp on, I hope you do. And if you tried it and you don't like it, well, let's figure out why and what you could do differently to enjoy it, because it's a lot of fun. Usually when someone doesn't like a process or something, it's because maybe they don't get it quite nailed like they want to. Because usually when you get something pretty nailed and you get it down, then it's more enjoyable. So that's just my little tip for you. So if you don't like it, it's probably because you need practice. Sorry, I should have said that. We're gonna scratch that from the record. Anyways, you all have a great Thursday. Weekend's coming up, so I hope you have a safe and great, fun weekend. I'll see you next Thursday here on the Redesign with Prima Facebook page at noon EST or maybe noon 05. And I'll see you then. Bye.